long story short, I have podcaster and mega geek Beorn Turner on here.
Hey, how's it going, man?
We found some time, some more than free time, just to discuss just the wacky, outlandish battles that have been documented on the podcast. Who would win? Which, for those who don't know, is run by MMA fighter and instructor James Gapsey, as well as the only retired wrestler Ray Stacanis.
James is actually an author too.
Yes, I love the whole be the bigger shark mentality that he imposes on the anti-bullying.
Yep. It's on my list to buy the books and all that because I'm really curious to see his mindset.
It's so great, so much great.
I pretty much know what it is, but I'd like to see how he explains it out.
He did such a good job with it. It was a good illustration of you're trying to do this, you should try to actually do that.
Thoughts on that, and it transfers over to the show and Ray's thoughts and philosophies, it seems, transfers over the show too. I mean, they're both fighters, so they bring that fighting to
yes
their points on the show, and
you never know where they're going to go.
Oh, I know. Sometimes like, where did you pull that out of? Yeah.
Wait, what?
And the stuff they try to get away with, it's like, the old school wrestler where you see him like pull something out of their boot. That's what Ray does sometimes. He pulls a point out of his boot and tries to use it. And you're like, wait, what did you do that for?
Badass.
It's one of my favorite podcasts out there. He's one of the first podcasts I ever got into.
Just a dynamite show. I have re-listened to episodes. I've downloaded every episode because I get it. They were doing quality control and they're like, we're picking up sponsors. Let's take down some of the episodes. I'm like, drat, I love that episode, even though there was some recording difficulties.
Yeah. Sorry.
All good. I'm killing kin with laughter.
I started listening to it. I call it season 0. When it was
Muppets
James
versus
and
Sesame
Jay.
Street.
James and Jay, and which was good. It was good. It didn't have the same flair as it does now in a way. So much better, But no offense to Jay, it just the chemistry wasn't quite the same level.
Yeah, when they were going with it, kind of just other just obscure ones, it was kind of unusual. But now that they have more voice actors, more comic book creators, and now a merchandise shop, it's like, yeah, that makes sense why they're here.
It's the growth of the show from, I think my first real show was when I started catching up to the present time of it was James Bond versus the Joker, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
It was my first one.
It's very unusual. And so for those who don't listen, what will you get out of this, especially if you're not into geeky topics like this, is like you should still listen to it anyway, just because it's improv comedy. There's all sorts of just outlandish battles. There is some thought put into it for an outrageous scenario. And we got over 120 of these that we can bring up, but I mean, it doesn't even become about the fight being won so much as it is like who's going to surprise with each of these free points, and is the judge going to be swayed, or are they going to even do their homework, or as Ray likes to joke, are you listening? I think you're listening.
maybe since people that haven't even heard the show before, we should explain it that they take two characters from different fandoms and pit them against each other in a random encounter. No prior knowledge. I think I almost got that the right way with the same cadence. And they put them out there, and it's a fight to not necessarily the death, but it's battlefield removal,
yeah.
Death, or stop the person.
Some of them get so cheap with that too, where you're like
2 or 3 minutes. What's funny is that at first the 2 or 3 minute thing wasn't even there, and then all of a sudden it was like one of those.
It was too close to call, and they're like, we got to have a winner. We cannot have a tie.
Yep.
I think there's only been like 2 outcomes where they needed a fourth point just to break the tie.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I,
you were honored to be a judge. I can only imagine what it was like checking your inbox the next day and being like, "Oh, snap!"
I was waiting for it. I had
You're so
um
involved on
I had a
Delvin's
thing
show.
color coded so that it would pop up. I could answer people right away. I was trying to be the judge, like I would want other judges to be, like response, you
Hmm.
know. But I didn't get anything really. I got a couple people write me and say, "Good job, great job. I agree with you," but never didn't get any like hate, no anything like that. They're like, "Hey, for a first time
Surprisingly,
judge."
I don't see as much attention, but every once in a while, I'll see people who will respond to the billionth DC versus Marvel fight. But then
Mhm.
every once in a while, someone will bring up some 80s tough guy or 90s TV show hero or obscure cartoon. I'm like, that's exactly what I was thinking of. I'm glad that's getting some attention. So it's very hard to tell what time of the day is best for posting something related to it, but it is cool still seeing some kind of interaction.
Yeah, it also depends on where you do it. I mean,
Yeah,
Twitter, there's interaction, but it's not the same level as it's on Facebook group.
no,
The
not
Facebook, you got
even.
people putting up some crazy stuff. Like not even. That's like, did you guys even listen to the show, or are you just throwing out fights? Because like I think
Yeah,
something I saw the other day, like
internet
uh,
bots.
yeah, it's like somebody versus a grizzly bear, like 5 people unarmed
We already talked about something
against
like
a
this in
grizzly
that.
bear,
Yeah.
and I'm like,
Oh God.
no, that's first of all, it's not the way the show works. It's
I
not what
even
it's
asked
about.
him, "Hey, uh, what special skills does the other side have?" And right now you're telling me nothing.
Yeah,
Okay, so
five bare-fisted people against a bear or grizzly bear. No.
and my what drives me insane, and I just try to just blow it off because what can
Mhm,
you do? Is no one wanting to be detailed. I'm like, why do they win? It's like James should not be the only one asking, why do you think that?
mhm. Yeah. I'll get detailed sometimes, depending on
No,
the
you're good. But I'll see somebody, they'll just be like, so and so, obviously. I'm like, oh, hold on.
yeah.
Wouldn't be
Explain that.
obvious if we were here just saying Thanos just because Thanos or Goku because Goku. And it is funny
Yeah,
how they have had those two fight multiple times on the show, much like the Muppets and Sesame Street. And everyone's wondering, what does so and so do? And it's like, well, just use your imagination. It's like,
yeah,
and if it's just, but both those fights were some of the most craziest and popular ones, but because both participants represented a different side each time, and each time they lost. So it was like, who is the better one?
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Got to be an answer
I
here.
can't, was the same judge? I don't remember. Was it?
I think it was a different judge, but
Sure.
it was still perplexing. And
Mhm.
so there's been some other good ones. There's been the A Team versus the Boys. There's been
That was interesting. Um,
Taskmaster versus Midnighter.
yep. King Arthur versus Conan.
It was so outrageous.
Yep.
Man, the Enterprise E versus the Superstar Destroyer.
See, I liked the weird ones. Like I like the group ones and the weird ones because having like one person versus a person, it's cool. But like
Mhm.
there was one where it was like I don't remember what season it was, but it was like
What version are you going to bring of them?
Shield agents versus Cobra. Cobra.
There was some of that. I think I don't know if they removed that episode. The Expanse crew versus Apex Legends.
Yep. Yep.
Uh, but yeah, they when they did the like a crew of 5 versus 5, those were
Yeah.
interesting because and they put Kirby and Link in some of them. And it's like, yeah, this is interesting because either way, both people on either side are gonna get killed. It's just a matter of who's the last one standing or gonna lead them into combat
Yeah.
to get the win.
I still want to see the Dinobots versus the Iron Legion. Like,
Ooh.
like the entire suits of Iron Legion. Um, but
Something they could do there. Yeah.
yeah, and there's a couple other ones that like. Of course, I'm a huge Transformers fan. I use my background here to people because it's a podcast. I'll tell
Yeah.
you, it's
It's fun.
Teletran One. I have G1 cartoon, Teletrain 1 is my background on my Zoom.
Nice.
So I'm always looking at like a Transformer spin when somebody fights, when they say, "Hey, who should this person fight?" Um, but that's why the Optimus Prime versus Doctor Doom one drove me nuts. How Doctor Doom was
Yeah.
one because he was a technomancer. It's like, but Optimus Prime is sentient. He's not just a machine. He's sentient. That shouldn't have, If that's the case, then Doctor Doom should have been able to take out like Magus or Magnus, Warlock's
And what was
father
in it?
from New Mutants.
Megatron who killed King Kong, or maybe it was that the other way.
Um,
It was an earlier one, and
oh
they
yeah, it was
keep referencing
earlier.
that fight, and it's just so
Yeah, because
funny.
Megatron had the higher ground, but King Kong still won because you could throw stuff at him or something like that. I can't remember what the one was. There's one of those ones that's like, it was a good one, but I chose to forget it because it was driving me nuts mulling over all the different variations and stuff. Yeah. Um, because that's the thing, this show is so good, but there's one a week. So it's like
Always, and you never know
it's
where it's coming or
yeah.
going.
The only thing you can be guaranteed with the show, as far as it's always going to be good, even if it's an obscure character I've never ever
Even if you disagree
heard
with the
of.
win, it's going to be a hell of a show. There's going to be all
Mhm.
sorts of other comedy thrown in.
Yep. It's always entertaining. It's always got something you can say about it because it should be some kind of thing like, well, why does that make sense? Or, oh, I completely agree.
Sometimes it's even
October's,
funnier. It's like I want Ray to win this one because I love this character. Or I want James to win, even though this character is probably outmatched, or I'm not even the biggest fan. But they got some points.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, um, the Poison Ivy versus Bumblebee one. And I was
Yeah,
like, I was so against
it's
it because
like
I
a
was like,
season one.
no, yeah, yeah. And they're like, I was like, she's not gonna be able to do it. She has pheromones, but that's not gonna work. And they're like, oh, she gummed up his works with the vines. I'm like, no, that won't work. And then they're like, well, she could pull buildings down with them. I'm like, oh, I got to start leading. I said, much as I wanted Bumblebee to win, when he starts saying about she can have the vines pull buildings down or hold buildings up and all that stuff, I'm like, B's not that
Ah,
strong. He's a scout. He's a transformer, but he's a scout class. He's not like Ironhide or Grimlock or somebody like that would just rip the vines out before they
it even
start. Yeah.
reminds you of the different comic book crossovers that I'm sure you've read the Terminator versus the Transformers one.
No, I have not actually.
You would love it.
I didn't even know there was a Terminator
Yeah,
versus Transformers.
IDW and Dynamite and Boom, they do some crazy ones.
I've seen like some Marvel and Star Trek, and then Marvel and Transformers. I am
And it's so funny how they'll mention non-canon ones like the Punisher versus is like, stop bringing it up. It's a joke. Oh man. And so I got some other ones, and once again, I know others can't see it, but Ken has a wonderful Transformers-esque control room panel. Uh, Speaking of Transformers, one battle that I think I re-listened to at least 3 different times, just because I love the intensity and the detail. It was Unicron versus the Death Star,
yes.
because that
The
was like this guy again. If you've seen the animated Transformers movies from the '80s, that's the Planet Killer versus the Death Star, which is known for blowing up, not eating,
right.
blowing up planets. Yeah.
And the thing that really did it was the Unicron simulacrum. How there's every universe, every world, there is a Unicron.
Totally.
So
And I don't know what it is. The minute they have a campy character, especially, because there is some camp in Transformers, it's like,
oh
yeah,
yeah.
I kind of just want that side to win. I
Mhm.
just, even if it's the weakest character, even if it was the GoBots, let's do it.
Like I'm waiting for them to bring Autobot Spike into it someday just to see what they do.
They might as well. So they've had the Guardians, which are Russia's bastardized answer to the Avengers versus TMNT, and that was wild. There was the Crow versus Jason Voorhees, Kinsharu
Mhm.
versus Bugs Bunny, which introduced their Toon Force, which is if we're bringing cartoon logic, it's like, well, how long can each of them last? When they had Han
Yep.
Solo versus Austin Powers, that was fun because it's like which character can pull prank on the other.
Hmm.
Batman and Robin versus Hobbs and Shaw is like, okay, well, we're going total camp here. And
Yeah,
then,
because it was the '60s version of
yeah,
Batman and Robin to put up
so
to
it's
even
punch
more.
fighting. Who's going to not, and that was, again, post 2 minute rule,
Hmm.
where it's like, okay, we can argue who will knock each other out, but someone's got to get knocked out just to suggest that they lost a fight.
Hmm.
And when they had James Gatsby himself versus Ray Canis, and then they had vice versa, like the opposite host represents the others. Like, okay, so this is acknowledging the wacky fun to this whole scenario, and then we can't decide a winner because what would be the point? We're not going to agree on who would actually win. We could just as easily do a poor job of repping each other. So let's
Hmm.
just end with bagpipes, which is just
Oh, the
as over the
bagpipes
top
are
as
classic.
elevator music. Oh man, just nutty, nutty, nutty.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's the other thing. Guaranteed, there's always gonna be something interesting around April 1st. October's
always,
always going to be horror.
I wish they would.
October.
I'm always looking forward to those. I'm sure Pinhead from Hellraiser or Spawn will be put into one of them.
Mhm.
I keep asking them to use the Wishmaster.
Oh, yeah, he's a good one. He's a
I
good
mean,
one.
I could see him totally going against Apocalypse or one of the other guys. Blade versus General Grievous, that was crazy. It's like here's a Star Wars killer cyborg versus vampire hunter.
Daywalker.
Yep. RoboCop versus Gambit, Rambo versus the Punisher. The Penguin versus Jack Sparrow was wild because like who's gonna use more gadgets and tricks?
Yep, yep.
When
And Jack Sparrow almost has a level of Toon Force. He's
uh
this rum force. It seems that the drunker he gets, the crazier it is.
oh yeah, I forget which one. I want to say it was into season 3, and they had like they were doing a rematch, and the judge, who's also the editor of the show, Robert Clark Chan, decided, you know what, I'm not even going to hear Ray's point, and just ended the. It was like the shortest episode ever. My favorite though, speaking of April Fools, where no one won, which is why they then imposed the rule. There's like there has to be a winner. Was the Supergirl versus Vegeta rematch?
Oh, yes, yeah.
It was just like, wait, what?
Yeah, I remember because I was cooking breakfast. I was listening to that one.
It is a fun show to listen
And
to while eating.
yeah, I used to listen to it on a bus ride on the way into work.
Ah,
And it was great. Wednesday morning, I would sit there because my bus ride would take me like an hour and a half to get to work, and it would take me almost right and so it was great. But then every once in a while, things get busy. I wouldn't be able to listen to it, so I would listen to it like on Saturday morning.
nice.
So I'm sitting there like cooking bacon and eggs and stuff for the household, and they said something that was like something totally off the wall that was completely wrong about Vegeta. I'm like, wait, that's Goku. What's going on? And then like with 2 seconds, bagpipes kick in. Like, I forgot what date it was.
Oh, wild. Speaking of the multi characters, there was the Lupin the Third gang versus the
Yep.
Nintendo All Stars. That was like one of the first ones they did, and so it's like, yeah, we got Kirby, we got, and yeah, Lupin the Third. That's an interesting one. That's one that goes back to literature and other French crossover cartoons.
Mhm.
Uh, where do you go with that? And you got all these master thieves. So again, it comes down to tricks, not necessarily who has a bigger gun or sword. You know,
Yep. And the other thing is like it's not just the characters; it's the
yeah.
the reps, James and Ray, because you can represent these people, but if you forget something, the judge has to not bring it. Like okay, like me, if I was repping and there's a transformer thing, and I knew that oh, Grimlock has a flaming sword that does this. It's not it goes to like enough to melt steel, and James doesn't. Well, James or Ray, whoever's representing, doesn't say that in part of his arsenal. I can't bring it up, which they've had some judges do who knew the characters. Oh no, they can do this, but they bring up. You can't do that. You have to. It's
You gotta
you know
pick.
they have 3 points. They can only bring up what they can bring up, and some of the stuff has to be cut to the wayside. You have to bring up like your best 3 points.
Yeah,
Um,
they would get pretty good at calling people out, and it's like, hold on,
mhm,
nowhere
mhm.
did anyone bring that up.
A judge that's good for that, Crystal.
Yes,
She's very good for calling them out on their bullshit. um, and Devin or Delvin, sorry,
Delvin
Delvin
Cox is great.
Cox.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, you've been fortunate. You and I have both been fortunate enough to record with. He's just
Mhm.
always a delight.
Oh yeah, he's an awesome guy. Um, I mean, so the judges also are huge. They get some really good judges. They need to get some of the past judges back on.
Yes.
Uh, Trust the Viking.
Trust the Viking.
um, but yeah, it's I can't say enough about the show. I mean, it's it's my
Always a delight.
go-to. It's my go-to show. You know, like I said, it was the first podcast that I listened to. Um, it was one of those things where I was listening to Audible books, and
Woo.
I didn't have any more Audible books lined up. I'm like, oh man, what am I going to do? So I was flipping through, and I had a couple things like queued up as podcast listeners. Like I had a Critical Role one. And I was like, oh, let me check this out. But it was like a 4 hour podcast. I was like, that's for another time. I'm not in the mindset for listening to something for 4 hours. Just want something to get me to work. And I was like, what's this? Who would win? Okay, let's check it out. You know, and it's like, score. I've been listening ever
Worst comes to
since, you know.
worst, it's people talking smack. Best hour, it's this and that. It's like, no, it's a bit of everything.
Yeah, it's good.
Oh man. Well, and speaking of
Excellent.
judges and
Mhm.
everything, they've had some other nutty ones like Luke Cage versus the T-1000, Venture Brothers versus Dungeons and Dragons, and
Yep.
other ones that I thought would even be far nuttier, like a live version of Batman versus Yoda and RoboCop versus Terminator, went in totally different directions. There was Data from Star Trek versus Shredder from Ninja Turtles. There's Homer Simpson versus Peter Griffin, but I have listened to the Goku versus Superman, George Washington versus Abraham Lincoln, and Laura Croft versus Indiana Jones
Mhm.
multiple times just because I never know where it's gonna go.
Yep.
Even though I've heard it and kind of know the ending, I'm like, yeah, but how did they get there again?
What's really interesting was that Homer Simpson Peter Griffith one.
Yeah,
James won that one, if I remember correctly. Almost
yeah,
probably I know
you're
he did
you're correct,
because he
and I always
pulled on the
remembered it the other way.
heartstrings. He
I
pulled
always
on the heartstrings is what
somehow
he
I
did.
remembered it differently. I thought, oh, I could have sworn Peter wins. It's like,
Yeah.
nope, the
No, 'cause,
less
I mean
violent.
Peter may be tougher, but he got it because he said that this is when they started doing more emotional ties into some of the characters
Yeah,
too. He
I'm
said
gonna play a trick.
Homer would go out all out for his daughter, and he has in the cartoon.
Hmm.
So if it was Bart, he'd be like, meh, whatever. If it was Maggie it was involved, then he would just go out. So if his kids are involved, something happened there, and you know,
It's going down.
it's going down. He's not going to stop, And
And when they were breaking the fourth wall with the Lincoln versus Washington, it was just so funny how James is taking it so serious. And
mm,
by the second point, it's very apparent. Oh, we're using sarcastic points. All right. Well, I'm going to use one that works for me both factually and the
yep.
character is Lincoln is a badass, and then I'm going to add the zombie killing part because you use the fact that Washington was played by Batman portrayer Adam West. It's so funny how it's they
That
pretty
is
much they pretty much it's no more playing with the judges anymore. Like when they do something like the Flash versus Magneto or Iceman versus Raiden, they do legit want to go all the way.
the Iceman, the mega level mutant.
I technically I guess he is. I just
Yep.
if Marvel says he is, I'm gonna go with that. I mean, the Incredibles versus the Umbrella Academy,
Oh,
Daredevil
that was a
versus
good one too.
Batman Beyond versus Daredevil, Sonic versus Mario, Homelander versus Red Hulk was unpredictable, and then Ash from Evil Dead versus Pennywise from It.
Yeah.
But I really dug the John Walker from one of the from Winter Soldier,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
versus
yeah.
Zorro, and
Yep.
Obi-Wan versus Wolverine, because then it came down to Wolverine's not going to do this. Is like, but he could technically, and same thing with Obi-Wan. He's like, he's not going to force choke you, but he could technically.
Mhm. There was
uh,
one that was interesting.
Minecraft
Was it
Steve versus movie version of Superman.
the blood sport, was it, versus Carnage, where they both have a
Oh
thing
yeah,
like, if one gets into your blood system, you go, so who has higher
it
priority?
was
And
very perplexing. You're like,
yeah,
wait, what?
but because the
Okay.
one was nanites, not biological, I think if I remember correctly, blood sport won because the nanites would be more persistent to take over.
And the voice actors will even, it's funny how they have to give a disclaimer. It's like, yes, I have voiced some of these characters you were repping, but this is not any of my bias towards that.
Yeah.
I have voiced Captain America. That doesn't mean I'm going to give him the win necessarily.
Yeah,
uh,
like we had a
Roger
lot of good
Craig
voice
Smith.
makers.
Yeah.
I mean,
Samurai
Frank
Jack
Dodoro.
versus every version of Samuel L. Jackson, the actor. That was funny.
Oh, I forgot about that one.
Percy Jackson versus the Marvel Comics version of Hercules. Soldier
Mhm.
Boy from The Boys versus Shuri from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I did just the wackier ones like Chewbacca versus Rocket Raccoon, Iron Giant
Yeah.
versus Solid Snake, Nightcrawler
What?
versus Shredder, Doctor
Who
Strange
did
versus Doctor Fate.
Dritz go against? I feel ashamed for asking that because I was always lobbying to get Dritz on there, and Ray's like, he will
Oh.
never show up. I will never have him on the show. And then like a year and a half to 2 years later, they did.
I'm not sure who he fought, but it was. I mean, I love when they do the movie versions of certain characters. There's
Mhm.
Bat Flag versus MCU Captain America, Wonder Woman versus Deadpool, and then Cyclops versus Master Chief from Halo, and Aquaman versus Tetsuo, Captain Price from Call of Duty versus Sergeant Rock, the comic book character, Buffy versus Leonardo, Beast versus Serpentor, and then Dante, the video game character versus Hawkman,
Mhm.
Commander Shepard versus Mass Effect versus Bo Katan from Mandalorian. I did re listen to the John Marston from Red Dead Redemption versus Spike from Cowboy Bebop because
Oh, yeah.
you're talking about two gunfighters in their own violent world. And James doesn't play video games, but he did enough research, fortunately, to just call out, oh, by the way, only one of these characters dies. It's like, I can use this against you.
Beast
uh,
Boy versus Grimlock.
And Grimlock was crazy, and especially because he's going against Beast Boy, so it's just like,
Oh,
whoa,
Spider-Man 2099 versus Dritz.
that's the one.
Yeah.
Michael Myers versus the Predator, and yeah, I did put down the Grimlock one, but MODOK versus Martian Manhunter, Shang-Chi versus Inuyasha, the Green Ranger versus General Grievous, and then having to even just bring in even other Nintendo characters and Sinister Six versus Green Arrow, and but I will always love the Burger King versus Ronald McDonald.
Oh, yeah. That I was rooting for Ronald McDonald because that Burger King guy is just creepy as hell.
Spyro the Dragon versus Starfire from Teen Titans.
Hmm.
Beerus versus Silver Surfer. Ganondorf from Super Mario Brothers versus Lino. Is when they bring in all
Really?
these other Thundercats and other stuff, you're like, whoa, where is this going?
Well, there's
I,
some crazy ones like you wouldn't think of, like
Sergeant Slaughter.
Twilight Sparkle versus Lobo.
Oh man. And I was having to
Yeah.
educate all kinds of people when they had the ultimate spy battle that was Jack Bauer versus Jason Bourne.
Oh, yeah.
And I was surprised how that went because Ray didn't get any of the facts about Jack right and still won. Like he didn't even get the episode numbers right and how many seasons there were, but he did enough to where, Delvin Cox had seen both movies and shows multiple times, but I was
Yeah.
expecting James to be a little tricky and do some feats that were more akin to the book version of Jason Bourne, but he didn't do that. You should do this, but he pretty much was relying on his real life martial arts. It's like, well, here's the thing: they're both highly exaggerated,
Yeah.
ultra violent spy characters, much like the Punisher. So there's really no point in bringing in real life martial arts expertise. One's a former Delta Force guy who kills terrorists. The other's a former Marine turned, vigilante.
But
And
you could see that, like, in that, I remember that one because this it was the first time I saw. Um, I mean, they're both passionate about their points, but that
yeah,
one you could see James getting a little heated. He's like, "No, that's not how that martial arts works. This is what it does." This is what,
yeah, he
he's
hates misrepresenting it. And I made sure when I interviewed him, was like, I know the difference, it's like they've done other ones with James. I mean, for years they've talked about the difference between James Bond and Bourne is like, you know, Jason is more of a soldier who was sent by the CIA, while James Bond is more of a hitman who
yep,
was in the Navy. Yeah. You're only as good as how much attention you give all of it. But the fact that they made us discover some of these independent comic books and let them sponsor the show has been fun. So I had no idea about the Advent Comics
yep.
creation of Titan until he fought Homelander, but now I do. And uh, even just other unpredictable ones they done recently, I thought for sure the Tony Montana was rep by James from Scarface versus Soprano was going to go different, but they brought in Kevin Goatee, who kind of only likes one of those two properties. So I was like, yeah, this isn't going to go well. He
Mhm.
usually, if he doesn't like the character, he's going to find a reason for them to lose. But Godzilla Earth version versus
Oh,
Worldbreaker Hulk with James won as the latter, and I did not expect that. I thought Godzilla was going to get the win somehow because Godzilla.
yeah.
Beetlejuice versus the Ghostbusters, the Xenomorph Queen versus Ash was crazy because basically Ash still technically loses, and I was like, so he shouldn't win.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, Ultron versus Brainiac. Now James won that one, but I didn't expect him to because very powerful characters. Plastic Man versus Reed Richards.
That was an interesting one. I mean, you got into like the molecular level of each character and stuff. Was like, that was some deep dives on that one.
So
Yeah.
deep.
We'll return after these messages.
If you like small town mystery, crazy news, and wild history, then the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast is for you. Each week, Josh Mills and Wayne McCarty bring you the absolute best Florida has to offer. So if you're looking for a show that's safe for the family, but funny enough to help you escape everyday life, then listen to the Florida Men on Florida Man podcast. That's Florida Men, plural, on Florida Man podcast.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, "Give it up, Jimmy. You got to sink this putt to win." On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and booty debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in. It's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
The Jacked Up Review Show podcast is honored to be part of the Blind Knowledge Podcast Network. Join anytime, talk the talk, and enjoy yourselves. There's something enlightening for everyone with this crowd of cool cats. Check them out. I didn't feel like James brought it as Jack Reacher against the John Wick fight. It just seems like Wick always gets the win.
Yeah.
Magneto versus Omni-Man was crazy. Recently, there was Captain America versus Dr. Robotnik and Lego Batman versus The Mask, as well as a Luke
Yes.
Skywalker rematch, this time with Link. And
Mhm.
Ray lost as Link, which was so weird because, both of them had been successful as, they're repping the same character again. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm not sure how this is going to go. Optimus Prime versus Juggernaut was interesting because I'm like, you're talking about the most invincible Marvel
Yeah.
character. Chucky versus Frank West from Dead Rising, Thanos versus One Punch Man, and obviously there's the controversial Deathstroke versus the Care Bears.
Yeah.
I was like, why did they even do this? I can understand Gandalf versus Dumbledore or Skeletor, but
Mhm.
I'm not sure what they're going with this.
It's just one of those they wanted to do a funny twist up one, like they do every
Sonic
once in a while.
versus Ghost Rider, Starfire, Xena versus Bucky from Winter Soldier was funny.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that one.
Mysterio versus Darkwing Duck. But yeah, the Return of the Bagpipe music was definitely when they did the Green Arrow versus Sinister Six. That was their biggest Gauntlet match. But once again, it was just cut short after 20 minutes.
Hmm. One thing I would love to see in the show more is, like I said before, I love those groups upon groups, or see some spaceships. You get spaceships,
Absolutely. We
Yeah.
just I've suggested the Rocinante a few times because I know they'll find any way to make a reference to the Expanse. But I mean, I
Mhm.
wouldn't mind some Battlestar Galactica stuff on there, Stargate stuff.
Babylon 5,
I
Farscape.
forgot you're a big B5 guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
For more on that, listen to all 5 recent episodes we've done on it. Yeah, I've been suggesting a few of those and Highlander characters for a while. I'm just like, yeah, just get some of those other gladiators or witches or space captains on there. It'd just be interesting because
Or
and
even
and make it clear: are they on the bridge or commanding, or are they actually in a fist fight?
right, exactly. But I don't want to see like Enterprise versus Millennium Falcon or something like that, or the Star Destroyer.
Diffuse that long running
That's just so
argument
done.
that has never been decided, because you're talking about not only 2 different universes with different science, different tropes,
Mhm.
different cliches, but
I
different
don't think you can even
shielding.
do that satisfactorily on a stale September one.
No,
It just is too overdone, and I wouldn't mind seeing them try it, but I think it would probably be the most boring one of the year, because it's like,
they might.
what new could you bring?
Maybe they could. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I had a hiccup there.
Okay.
Probably because James is trying to get in and say stop recording. Yeah, but you're talking about me, but no. It's yeah. I mean, maybe they could do similar to what they did with the Nintendo All Stars, where they put a bunch of guys on a team.
Yeah.
So they could probably do President Sheridan, Picard, and Han Solo on
that'd
a
be
team,
interesting.
and then they'd have them probably fight maybe Captain Holden, Jack O'Neill, and then I don't know,
That'd be
just
interesting.
some other cool, maybe Doctor Who, just to make it fair. It's like, just
The
someone
Vorlons.
who give each of them someone who's got like some, again, X-Men or Lord of the Rings type magic, and then
The Battleship Yamato from Star Blazers. That old one.
ooh, wow,
It's overpowered, has one overpowered gun, but it takes a while. It's like Dragon Ball Z doing
that
their
would go back
big charge
to
up.
Star Destroyer, Death Star rules. Is like, do we
Yeah.
have enough time to blast them the hell out of the galaxy? Or are
Yeah.
they going to use warp speed and then come around and attack their hull? Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes it more fun than even playing a game of Risk.
Yeah, who can? Because you don't know whether, because you got all the angles, above you and below you too. You got to watch out for. It's not all just X and Y axis. You got, was it X, Y, Z? I don't even know the other pivot points, but yeah, I mean that'd be cool, because it's an old ship that they have to delve in and do some research on too.
Yeah, just something that hasn't been done and just surprises us. And hopefully, like some of these other rounds, they'll make people want to check out some of these comics and movies and video games.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they got a huge following. I mean, I know they've got like thousands of people on Facebook. I don't know how many on Twitter, and they haven't said numbers in a while. Like what their like downloads are. Like usually at the end of the year, they say it. We've had this many downloads. I remember they did one time because it was a big number. But it's late. My brain's not working as well as it would, so I
Their
can't remember.
downloads are insane. Like
Mhm.
that amount of interaction, and obviously some of it's in the title, so good on the title, but
Mhm.
now it's going beyond that to where they're actually wanting to propose future installments.
Yep. I really hope their idea, though, they mentioned it a few episodes ago about wanting to get out to cons and do live shows like they were trying to do before the pandemic hit. They wanted to do that before the pandemic hit, and it just obviously the world blew up and couldn't
Oh
do it.
yeah, and for them to still survive, and it helped that they're doing it over Zoom.
Yeah. To like go to a con and have it happen there at a con. Oh, that'd be great. Um, I would go to it. I mean, if they showed up in the East Coast, like Boston, like near where I'm at, I would go to that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, uh, I'm getting a new car, so I'm definitely getting to that point where I'm like, hey, if we got to meet up just to go to a convention and see where James is, let's do it.
They just got to make sure they get enough Pepsi Max for
And
for
Burger
Ray.
King for Ray,
Yep.
yeah. It's the funniest thing how they just play off each other so much. Where they're just,
Yeah. It's always gonna be Pepsi Max and Pepsi Zero now, I think it's called. I don't know. And Burger King, and then James is IMF. Wow, did you ever realize? I mean, if I talk to other people about it, trying to give them a rundown of the show, how more involved it is than the normal elevator pitch on the show. You're telling people about it. You know, you tell a friend or family, oh, it's this, and then when you talk to someone that knows the show and get more into the deep details of it, it's more than just like a debate show. It's you know, especially if you've been listening to it for a long time, you got all the nuances and inside jokes, and if you really want to, I mean, you can participate in the show answering the Saturday questions, um, or James's question of the day type of thing. But if you get involved completely and you get to know people and know the James and Ray, it's just a whole another level to the show.
I'm with you though. I do hope they mess with each other. Like they teased it before. Is like one of them has to sit out around and be a judge.
Mhm.
It'd be funny to just see, can you be objective or does someone have to rein you back in?
Ah,
And there's always a sense of fun because they will every once in a while is like, you know what? I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm agreeing with you.
ah.
No more sports or locker room talk anymore.
Is there any matchup that you want to see? I said about the Iron Legion and Dinobots.
Get some more like just spies or assassin characters on there, just like of anything. Like it'd be cool if they had like I know they proposed Brian Mills, Liam Neeson's character from Taken, in one
Mm,
Patreon poll, but I would love it if they used Robert McCall, the Denzel Washington version from The Equalizer. I would
mm.
love. It'd be cool if they did some one-offs, like Angelina Jolie's character from Salt.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
just it, or just any of the Dick Wolf shows. I mean, uh, Ray is always doing a reference to SVU, and it's like, how funny would it be if he repped Stabler 1 minute and James had to rep some other '80s cop?
Ah,
I'm not saying it has to be cheesy like CSI level, but it just could be just someone who, better yet, since Ray is always talking smack, even though never has seen this character or show, he should rep Bosch because then it'll force him to watch the show and then realize it's actually a pretty good Punisher type show. But like any of those
I've heard of it, but
characters,
I've never seen it. I've heard it's really good.
you would dig it. But like much like the Punisher, before he
Mhm.
became a private eye slash vigilante, he was a Marine. So I that's what I like is just the whole characters who have like some kind of military backstory or tragic past, and then they got all these insane fighting moves, and it's not just good actor, good choreography. Is like no, they're it. it's getting people who were actually in the service kind of involved and saying, "I buy it."
Cool.
So yeah, if they could get some other kind of cool like wizards or uh even I mean, they did Captain Carrot, so it would be funny if they had some other sarcastic or infamous characters like they've always done before, right? Like, what is it, a NFL Super Pro?
Yeah.
So if Ray wants to keep repping just like infamous characters, it's like totally. Well, like there's even a bunch of very infamous spy movies. It is so it'd be funny if he even took something like Jim Cotta and uh James had to rep something like, I don't know, Walker Texas Ranger. It would
Or
be funny.
Spy. Oh God, I can't remember his
Jim
name.
Cotta. There's Ballistic X versus Sever.
The spoof spy show.
Oh, Chuck.
No.
Burn Notice.
It was movies. Burn Notice was good, but no, like it was total camp comedy.
Oh, Archer.
No, it's bugging me. Hold on.
Although, given how they use Cartoon Force, they should use Archer. Just
Yeah,
excuse
that's
for
true.
having more
Well,
cartoons.
they did use the Adventure Brothers. Was that them?
That was the closest they got into a cartoon
Yeah.
spy team, and having them fight the Dungeons and Dragon team, that was kind of a fun love letter to 80s kids.
Yep. Leslie Nielsen.
Oh,
His one, the Naked Gun. And Naked Gun 2.
there you go. They should totally do that. Like, that would be a perfect acknowledgement.
Something like that, like a funny, like crazy off the wall one.
I mean, going back to your earlier point on April Fools, yeah, that would probably kill.
Mm-hmm.
If they wanted to have every version of James Bond versus like every version of like Robin Hood or something, that would be fun.
That would be interesting because
Just
there's
something
you have
where
Errol Flynn.
they usually do better when they've had an ability to laugh. Like James is ready to go when he can just look at some clips and some facts and read some trivia while Ray is having an excuse to just do a movie marathon.
No, I like that idea though, because you have all the James Bonds like Sean Connery, Roger Moore.
Totally. More Terminators, that would be fun. Hell, if they want to do every Terminator, that would be funny. Like, it's like just so more Alien and Predator kind of stuff, that would be
Right.
fun. Speaking of spaceships, what if they in satire, maybe if they got the Starship Troopers crowd, that would be funny.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna win just by the fact that they're incompetent.
True.
But
true.
have a lot of bombs and giant ships that can crash into shit.
When you start saying ships, I was thinking of like Spaceballs.
Oh, there you go. The Galaxy Quest crew. That would be fun.
That would be a good one. Yeah, that actually really good.
Because kind of like how they use Pigs in Space for when they were repping the Muppets. Is like, yeah, they're we can imply that they're using some version of what they're making fun of.
Mm-hmm. There's still a lot of
and I mean, there's
meat
got
to
to
this
be.
they can go. Yeah, I mean, the show's nowhere
Gremlins.
near dead.
If they want a
that'd be-
Spielberg match, have them fight the entire Jurassic Park Dino crew. Which one's
Oh,
going to get eaten and which one's going to go right into the kitchen and pour water on them and multiply.
wow. That's a good, because the thing is, they wouldn't be able to fight during the day because they just kill the gremlins.
So there you go. Yeah, there's so many factors. It's like,
Yeah.
even if they both die, who's going to die first? It just
That's
a lot of
that's
factors in it.
interesting.
Like, and they could bring in the Candyman. They could bring in the Warlock. Rest in peace, Julian Sands, who you might know from
Mhm.
Smallville. And I always propose a lot of characters from 24 just because they have just crazy violent abilities as well as are fun to read about and incredible backstories. Just how they created a likable character in an unlikable world. So if they want to have other Punisher, Spider-Man villains, that'll be funny just because you never know, again, which ones just got so crazy. Obviously, when they do crossovers, that's always fun. And I've already joked to James a few times, like, if you're gonna rep Lego Batman, now you got to rep George Clooney Batman, which I know you don't like. And he's playing around with it, but I'm like, hey, you've repped virtually every other version of Batman. You might as well.
Can't be picky. You're doing one, you gotta do them all.
That's the other thing too. Yeah, when they admit most of the time it's just for show, but it's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure Brent or somebody said you got to rep this character just this week. Just trust me. They'll bring in clicks and laughs, and
I think they're also good with like doing it with stuff like with I just blanked on the word I was looking for. Something that's new and exciting that's going on now, that's popular, that's trending. Like Critical Role has a cartoon Vox Machina, which is based off their first season. And I would be surprised, about time that like season 3 rolls around for the cartoon, that they have those characters in a group on another group, Like really they could do those guys against the Guardians, have Guardians versus Vox
there you
Machina.
go.
Bring
Something
them
just
back.
loopy. Yeah, but
Yeah.
totally should bring back the Guardians just because
That'll appease
it's just funny. It's just when you're getting someone out there saw the Infamous movie. Anyone can watch it now that it's on Tubi. More widely available.
I came across it and I was like, do I want to? No,
It was playing on Showtime briefly. I'm like, geez, Showtime has dropped the ball. They don't care.
Jeez.
That would be like if HBO started playing The Room. It's just, in fact, I would love more of that. Just like, what if they got, you want to talk about spaceships, the aliens from Battlefield Earth versus Flash Gordon, the movie. Just some, or even Waterworld, just some infamous sci-fi blockbuster, John Carter movie version versus Riddick.
Or Buck Rogers. How's that?
There you go. Campy as camp can give you. Yeah. Be a great excuse to have Aaron Gray on the ship. Perfect.
Yep. And then Hawkman with his ship with the hawk and has the claws come out.
Yes. That's as close as you get to live action, like He-Man, Thundercats.
At that time, yeah. Oh man, that was I remember that. I can't let go, but just rip them apart. That's a stupid design.
Oh man. I've suggested a few other. I mean, I was so glad when I did give James some smack. I'm like, dude, you do know technically Tony Montana comes back to life and you couldn't bother to read a comic. Come on, man. Or look up the synopsis. Yeah, I mean, he came back even in a video game, so I mean, it's technically canon. Yeah, I mean, I would. Did you ever see? He played the Thing in the original Fantastic Four movies. Did you ever see? The Shield? Yeah,
yes,
different kind of Shield. Yeah, if you had that entire crooked Vice Squad, that would be just a lot of fun. Just Vic and his homies, because again, like you'd have to be very careful with your wording.
Sons of Anarchy.
Oh, you know, fun fact, they're actually in the same universe.
Are they really?
Because they use the same One-Niners gang. Which,
no shit.
And the Bi Lads, which also appeared on other stuff that the writers have worked on, including the Unit, that special ops show, and the other one, SWAT. You won't see it on the Wicca, but I heard it just loud as day when I was watching like the first season back in the day, and like by the third episode, it was like the One-Niners. I'm like, they're dressed the exact same way as the radical team on.
That's cool. That's cool. I like little things like that. Like
I do too, dude. I love the whole.
Something with that with Breaking Bad and Walking Dead.
That would be even better. So there you go.
They actually have it because in one of the beginning when you first meet Daryl, he had a bag of blue crystal drugs on his motorcycle. Because I got this from some Yankee, like janky little kid that couldn't shut up. And you're like, hey, God. Know who that is?
It's the AMC TV universe. Yeah. Oh man, fun stuff. Fun. I mean, if anything, they could even. I've suggested some other gangster stuff. Like there was the Power TV show universe. You would have a lot of fun characters to pick from. Ray Donovan,
Oh,
But yeah, I mean, it's a start. So far, James has won season 1 and free, and Ray has won season 2, 4, and 5. Thank you to Lord Snurts. No telling how season 6 will end this year, but
it's been crazy back and forth, like getting big numbers and then dropping, and the other person gets big numbers and then dropping.
you really don't know where it'll go. It's just like, wait, what? Okay, if you want to go there.
And then this week is
What if they had Speed go into one of your Vikings characters? You could probably convince them to have Hrothgar
oh yeah,
versus Maximus from Gladiator. That would be fun.
I would rather have. I think I would rather have Bjorn Ironsides.
Oh, well,
Against
whichever Viking character,
him.
all of them have, as long as it's not the main villain, that'd be fine. You know, just
Yeah.
one of the conquerors who just lasted most of the show's duration.
Yeah.
Maybe a movie version of the Punisher. I don't know.
I don't think they would ever have a fan on as a judge.
Other than you.
Well, not as judge. I'm sorry. Not as a judge, as a
Participant.
participant. Yeah, like a rep for a character. You know, that would be.
Unless James decided I've had enough. I don't want to move on.
I think that would be like an auction thing, like they're on Patreon, like, we're gonna auction it off. You get to be a rep on the show for one time. It's like a special
One time.
it's a
You might even suggest that to him. He might go for it. It's like, hey, extra clicks.
Yeah. You can auction it off. Highest bidder gets to choose who he goes against.
Absolutely. Just something to just be
Sweeten
even
the
more
pot.
sweeten the pot, make it extra salty.
I thought being a judge on that show at the time was a lot of fun.
It had to be, man, because you got to go with their formula. You got to keep them in suspense.
Yep. And it's I was nervous, but then once you get into it and all that, and you start going, you're like, okay, just like sitting listening to it, but you have direct interaction. And it was fun. I would 100% love to do it again. And
it's almost like you're listening to a bunch of elevator pitches that go longer than a minute.
I tell you what, you want to take notes though, because it's so in the moment.
But you as the judge also get a little leeway. You're like, hey, spend less time dissing each other and give me a point. Show me what they can do mechanics wise.
I was lucky they behaved themselves during that one. So I didn't have to bring a hammer down or something. Yeah. But just it was fun, but notes, you have to take notes, definitely, because if you're listening when the show's put out there on Wednesday, you can stop and rewind. Like, what did they say? Can't do that in the middle of that.
I accidentally posted a meme, and I've gotten various shout outs for it, but I one time accidentally posted and gave it away. Robert had to give me some shit. He's like, dude, no spoilers. I'm like, shit, I got the day mixed up.
Yep. I like when they did, because it used to be they didn't have that in there. People would spoil it right away.
I think for whatever reason, people are just less busy during the middle of the week, which is so wild. You'd think they'd be busier in the middle of the week and get more time off in the week.
Like I said, I would listen to it on my way into work.
Yeah, so there you go. So you're ready to talk.
Yeah. But I was always not doing spoilers, because I hated it if someone spoiled it for me. Like if I didn't get a chance to I'm like, oh man, I still listen to it.
So much. So much of it was like overkill. It was like, seriously, I haven't even listened to it yet.
Mm-hmm.
You had to.
I hate spoilers to begin with.
I do too, dude. I see no point. Like, and no fair saying, I heard this sucked. I'm like, well, did you see it? No.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, means a lot.
Yeah, it's like if it's a TV show, wait a week. If it's a movie, maybe wait 2.
At least give me a year. to catch wishful thinking, I know.
Yeah, okay. I'd say if there's a show that I'm really interested in, there's a like a cliffhanger. I try to stay away from it on Twitter, all that stuff, because someone's gonna say something.
Yeah. Twitter was the worst for the longest time. Now Facebook's kind of become overkill. There's still
Mhm.
someone who wants to say who died on a medieval or zombie show. I'm like, really?
Yep.
I wasn't gonna watch it anyway, but now I really won't.
Well, like with X-Men '97, it's out now. This last week was a really big thing happened on it.
Oh, jeez.
And Matthew Dawson posted on Twitter. He goes, "Really, really? I'm up. I turned Twitter on, and within 2 minutes, it gets spoiled for me already."
Jeez.
It's why like some stuff like that. I watch it before I can even check it, because I don't want to, you
You
know.
never know where it's gonna go.
Yeah, yeah. I just like sometimes like when I worked at one place was a bunch of geeks. We were all geeky stuff. So we had to all check with each other before we start talking. Did you see this yet? Did you see this? Okay, we all saw it. Let's talk.
Now we can
Otherwise,
do
you
that.
come in with your your coffee and you hear them talking over the cube wall. And you're like, guys.
Just something that just makes one feel like you were very careful.
Mm-hmm. If you're gonna talk, let me put my headset on at least. I
I don't know.
don't want to hear it.
I have no clue. Overall, I think we have covered most of the stuff we're interested in seeing. Um, and we're always looking forward to every episode. What do you
Definitely.
think? What character do you think will never be repped?
Never. Oh. It had to be somebody like super obscure that nobody will ever. Mr. Magoo.
Eh,
I don't know
there you
if
go.
you know who it is or not. It's old school, old school blind guy, half blind guy that would just trip on things and we get from point A to point B and do what he needs to do through mistakes. Um, I'm sure I could find someone else too, but just off the top of my head, I don't even know why his name popped in my head. Probably because of Leslie Nielsen. I think he played Mr. Magoo at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Magoo
Disney.
was a cartoon version of Leslie Nielsen, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you'd never see him on there because there wouldn't be interest. People are like, "Who the hell is this?" Um,
Something that would just be surprising.
yeah, yeah. I can't see them ever bringing him on for some reason.
Better yet, have Ray rep Iceman, since he just hates
Oh,
the character for just some unknown reason. I'm like,
I think he doesn't hate the character. He
just
hates the idea that it's
Omega
of a
power.
mega level. Yeah.
Ray.
It's there in the Marvel. It's in Marvel. I think it was an I don't know if it was in the Ultimates universe or the regular universe, but
It's some version of the universe.
yeah, it makes sense in a way. I mean, if he's super jacked up, angry, I mean,
Jacked up. I see. You
you can freeze everything,
said our name.
and then if Magneto can mess with the very electric, magnetic cores of the Earth, poles, then why can't he take the freeze all the particles of water?
Why can't he absorb this versus that?
Mhm. Even to a point where, I mean, to destroy the Earth, I mean, he doesn't have to do the whole Earth. He just has to do enough to mess with the environment, enough to throw it off kilter. Which way with the way the environment is right now, it wouldn't take much, I guess.
Yeah, it'd be very apocalyptic as a battle.
Mhm.
No
What
telling.
about you? Who do you think?
I hmm. I can see certain anime characters being off the table, like Death Note. I've suggested Highlander a few times, but no one seems to want to rep it because for whatever reason, Ray and some of the other guys seem to hate stuff like that, which is weird because they like the show. So, yeah, the only character I can think of that just won't ever be on there, other than should they make an announcement, might be James repping the Guardians.
Oh,
That'd be funny. And once again, for those listening, it's like we're talking about the Russian 2017 movie. We're not talking about Guardians of the Galaxy, which they have definitely repped. I understand.
yeah.
They could have Mechagodzilla. They could have. For some reason, I don't see Mothra making it. What do I know?
Yeah, she's definitely more of a support kaiju.
Dragon Wars. Yeah, I can see some other infamous kaiju thing they don't want to rep on there.
Yeah. I want to see the Pacific Rim bots.
They can do that. They mentioned robot jocks before, so I'm sure they'll find an excuse.
I was always trying to look for a way to see get like Pacific Rim's what's that character? What's the main one? No. The main one, the main machine, the one that's like
Jagger or something.
Yeah, the Jaegers, but I can't remember the name of the first one is. But like that against like Omega Supreme or Devastator or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
Just to get that.
That'd be fun.
But there's such a size difference, you know?
Yeah, there'd be a size difference, and then you just also wouldn't know who's really going to go all the way with it.
Well, Gypsy Danger.
That's what it was. There you go. We stopped someone from shouting at us.
I know. I was like, it was going to bug me. Meanwhile, like you said, yeah, someone listening to the podcast would be like, Gypsy Danger, typing in the comments.
What do you think?
But Omega Supreme would probably, because he's got the size, he's got a huge size difference on that, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But
very much so.
That's the thing, trying to find something with a decent matchup, you know. You have to do like the whole Jaeger team force against something like Omega Supreme to make it even close, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all sorts of things still to delve in and play with, you know. So I'm looking forward to see what they do.
Totally. And it'll just be an eye opener.
It always is. Every Monday when they announce who the person is, it's always like, ooh, or you know, it's. I've never been disappointed. I've been surprised and perplexed
in a good way.
Yeah, like I have no idea who either of these characters are because they're like both anime or something. And it's okay, I'm going to learn a lot this week. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to go there.
Yep.
As long as just everyone just acknowledges, hey, it's just we are putting on a show.
Yeah.
Here to have fun.
Follow us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening. It's a jacked up